Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everybody across the world. And welcome to this virtual memorial service of Baba Don Mattera Branzinga, the literary giant and an Africanist and an anti-colonial apartheid struggle of our country, South Africa. We are welcoming you as the Sobukwe Trust. That is the foundation that is hosting this wonderful program on this afternoon in South Africa. Welcome, and let us first apologize for starting a little bit late. We had been waiting for the family of the Matterras to be part of this. As you are aware that today there are other discussions, there are other conversations, and other memorial services that are taking place that are done across the world and across the country on behalf of Baba Don, the legendary Branzinga. Thando lwethu kamalinge lo umtungwa uyengwayo undima unkumbuzo, and he is going to be hosting this memorial service this afternoon. I'll only be facilitating the program up until the end. If you are wanting to watch with us, go to our Robert Sobukwe Trust Facebook page. You'll be able to see this is being broadcast live on our Facebook page. But also, it is also broadcast live on our Pont de Politique YouTube page. For those people that are able to use and watch on YouTube, please also do that and make sure that you are not missing anything on this wonderful afternoon in remembering of our legendary poet, our legendary Branzinga, our legendary anti-colonial activist, Baba Don Mattera. So we welcome everybody, and we want you to be with us in this afternoon up until the end of the day. You know that we've got a wonderful lineup that is going to be remembering and making some tributes around Baba Don. So without wasting any time, I'm going to put across the chairperson of the Sobukwe Trust, who is Professor Gordon Zide, to come and immediately welcome us and give us the purpose of this wonderful afternoon, and why did the Robert Sobukwe Trust decide on opting for this approach and this wonderful gesture. So the floor is yours, Prof, as the chairperson of the Robert Sobukwe Trust.
Okay, thank you very much, Thando, and greetings to all of us colleagues who are attending this special memorial service in honor of Baba Don Mattera. It is important just to trace a little bit as to why the Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe Trust considered it appropriate to arrange for this memorial service. Quite frankly, colleagues, the PAC in particular, which is the home of Baba Don and the home of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, thought it appropriate to rekindle the lamp of the Africanists, because slowly but surely it would appear that the Africanists are disappearing. Now, with the passing on of Baba Don, the RMST, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe Trust, said it cannot be that such a giant of our political struggle can simply disappear without us raising the flag of the struggle, raising the flag of Pan-Africanism, and raising the flag of Baba Don Mattera. Because much as he has left us, and it is very painful for us to lose a legend of his caliber, But at the same time, I think his departure leaves us with an incredible legacy, which we would only be putting into the dustbin of oblivion at our own peril. So I stand here before you not as a prophet or a knowledgeable Africanist or Pan-Africanist, but I consider myself as an ordinary member of society who is more keen to serve, to service, and to suffer in the same way in which our forebears and our forefathers and our fathers, who have in the main been Africanists. Baba Don Mattera was such a Pan-Africanist who did not expect ululations and praises, but was driven by authenticity, passion, dedication, and speaking truth to power. He did not mince his words. He was able to challenge the apartheid regime, and even now, with the present generation of political leaders, especially the political leaders who are in power, he is able, and he continues to be a conscience of the majority. I called him in 2018 when I was working on the book on Mama Sobukwe, and he expressed his concerns and lamentations about what is referred to as New South Africa, which is characterized by greed for greed, personal aggrandizement, corruption, and above all, looting of our resources. And then, of course, in one of his poems, he refers to Mama Sobukwe as the African queen. Such was the stature of Baba Don. The Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe is privileged to host this event, as it is not only about Baba Don, but it is also about rekindling the Sobukwe legacy, the legacy of the Pan-Africanists, and the legacy of those that have gone before us. And at the same time, to remind each and every one of us about that beautiful commitment of the PAC of serving, sacrifice, and suffering. And certainly Baba Don led from the front, and I can say without ambivalence and contradiction that with him gone, the Pan-Africanists will be poorer, but ironically will equally be richer because of his literary works, which are a legacy that he is leaving behind. As I welcome you all to this memorial service in honor of our brother, our father, our uncle, and grandfather, that with his poetic pen, he was able to express his open concerns about the state of our country and its, in inverted commas, misleaders. As his soul and spirit are going to join the spirits of the departed, the Pan-Africanists will. People like Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, Robert Sobukwe, Thomas Sankara, Frantz Fanon, and many others. We bid him farewell and ask him to convey our greetings to those who have gone before him and tell them that it is not yet Uhuru. As I close, I seem to hear Baba Don to be saying, quoting 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. Baba Don, throughout his life, noted with great concern the following midnights. And I'm just going to borrow from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he said that the world is characterized by 3 midnights, which also Baba Don would always refer to. One, that it is midnight within the social order. This is what our country is currently faced with. Much to the chagrin of Baba Don, family lives are broken and there is no support base. It is midnight because people are dying in numbers. Either people are dying in shebeens and people are killed by shooting. And the question is, what is it that we as a nation are doing when confronted with such a midnight? Number 2, Baba Don would say it is midnight within the social order. Everywhere, paralyzing fears harrow people by day and haunt them by night. Deep clouds of anxiety and depression are suspended deep in our mental skies. More people are emotionally disturbed today than at any other time of human history. And the question is, what is it that is wrong with us as African people? Baba Don would also say it is midnight within the moral order. The moral disorder and moral deficit is a midnight which should be a concern to all South Africans, particularly those who bear the same complexion as all of us. But nonetheless, it is midnight. And one would wonder, why is it that it is midnight in the midst of what we as Africans thought that this democracy would bring about joy, hope, and faith, but regrettably, it is midnight. Let me therefore conclude as I welcome you everybody, having cited the background and why this particular. I want to conclude by quoting the legendary of our struggle and the president of the PAC until he died, when in his speech at the 1949 graduation ceremony at Fort Hare, he said, and I quote, "Let me plead with you, lovers of my Africa, to carry with you into the world the vision of a new Africa, an Africa reborn, an Africa rejuvenated, Africa recrafted, young Africa. We are the glimmers of a new dawn. Fare thee well, Baba Don. I thank you."
Thank you very much, Prof, for that welcoming note. And I'm sure that now that everybody has been welcomed, people are more comfortable and they feel at ease into your house of Robert Sobukwe Trust. And I'm making sure that people feel comfortable, and also the viewers at home are able to see that our guests are present and will be taking part in this discussion. Let us just clarify some of the few things. The message from the president of AZAPO, Comrade Nelvis Kagema, will be flighted because he is not live but the message will be played a few minutes later, while we are also waiting for the other colleagues who are trying to connect into the conversation. But also the Matterra family is on its way, so they will be participating in the next few minutes or so, because there are other memorial services that are taking place in this afternoon. So people must not be surprised when they don't see them. They will be here very soon. And we would like also to announce that people can use, can use the hashtag to share this memorial service on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, whatever that you want to say. Just make sure that you put hashtag RIP Don Mattera. And we are able to see those people that are watching with us on our Robert Sobukwe Trust page. They have shown that they are present, they are with us, and they are making their messages there. We might have to play them at a particular time. Now, let us move into the next point that is of utter importance, because we know that Bradon was a literary person. Now, we've got something that is dedicated to Bradon by Mafrika Khafela. It goes like this.
By Khafela wa mahokodi. Away. Grand God expressing
I see them. I see them every day, everywhere. Non-people in non-transition, moving, shifting, going nowhere. Trapped in twilight zones of vacuous expectation, waiting between nothing and nothing. I see them, I know them. I am among them, seeking veracity, but trapped on the periphery of foreign norms and values and doublespeak. Find them not in boardrooms of decision-making, nor in marble halls or in fine dineries, but in sanctuaries of prayer, supplicating the void expanse for meaning, chanting dry their flaccid lungs, calling on gods who are not there, nor here, nor anywhere. I see them every day, everywhere. Non-people in non-transition. I see them everywhere, a people who have been lied to.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm asking you, Prof, to Professor Pitikantuli, to do your tribute about your comrade. Just take us through your tribute about Obrazinga, your comrade and your friend and your colleague.
Baba Don Mattera was a friend, a comrade, and a soulmate. Each time I met him, I always reminded him of a stanza from his poem. Remember, he was house arrested for 8 years. He couldn't write as a journalist. He couldn't publish or even read his poems. When they lifted up his house, he asked himself a question and said, where was I that I might emerge from the burning furnace of my spirit to call on and aggrieve people towards a rebellion and insurrection against these nocturnal beasts who guard our dreams and command our poems to kneel before their guns. He was a very fearless man. He was clever Fadatopi. He loved children. He loved people. He never hesitated to speak, his mind. He would speak truth, to power. I would rather, read a poem I just wrote as my contribution. Brazinga, Ken Temba paying tribute to Net Nakasa said, there in a miasma of dust where time is wool, he is not there. Then, Bradon, you came into my life when knuckles, sirens, and boots still rang in my ears. On a cold London morning, you looked me in the eye and shed a melodic laughter. Even before the introductions, I knew then I was in the presence of love and compassion. You said, I am here, but I miss the children of Azania. Those were the first words he said to me. Now flesh and spirit have parted and fond memories are gone. Faced with sharing vicissitudes of life, Bradon, you continue to think and made us roar with laughter. You wrote poems of love beyond borders of race, color, and creed because you are human. You wrote poems that threatened enemies of freedom and oppressive minds. Your parting words to me in London, you said, son of the soil and sound, continue to serve, suffer, and sacrifice, but be your own vicious critic. How can I miss you then when you leave my soul in my memory, in every thought I carry? You have lived and loved your beloved land, always surrounded by children, for the child in you never died, still carrying the elasticity of untrammeled love, hope, and joy, still full of unrestrained care for the flora and the fauna of your ancestral land. I will always remember your words. We betrayed. We are betrayed. We are furious. We are angry, but we do not hate. We do not hate. Without compassion, life is a stock fell without liquor, a church without bread and wine for the Eucharist. Stay with us in your poetry of redemption and of hope. I'd like to conclude by reading one of my favorite, poems, by him. which says, for instance, the Azania love song. Like a tall oak, I lift my arms to catch the wind. With bruised fingers and somewhere in the ghetto, a child is born. A mother's anxiety and pain hide in the forest of hope. Like a straight pine, I point my finger at God, counting a million scars on my dreams, and somewhere in the ghetto, a child is weeping. A woman writes her legacy on leaves of despair. Like a weeping willow, I drop my soul into the pool of fire. Somewhere in the dark sanctuary, I hear the sound of a freedom song. The child has risen and walked defiantly toward the lion's lair, undaunted and unafraid. Go, son of the soil, speak to Sobukwe, speak to Biko, speak to Ohubutsebi Tiro, speak to all those heroes who came before us. Salute the 95 out of 105 Pan-Africanists that were hung by the regime. Speak to us, or the four Vulindlela brothers who were all lynched by state law. We know you read poetry in the heavens, and the heaven will be better because of you. I have no words. As Mugabe said, when someone said to him, I have no words, he said, buy a dictionary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that submission, and we appreciate it so much. And it is a beautiful tribute that you have given to your colleagues, and I hope that my sound is better than the previous time. Now, what we are going to be going after, we'll go to Africa Khafela again to do his tribute as well. Mafika Khafela is a poet, is an activist, and also he has been influenced extensively by Baba Don Mattera. So Mafika Khafela, I'm sure you are able to hear me at this particular moment. Are you able to hear me very well? And if so, the floor is yours, sir. You can continue with your tribute. And immediately after that, we will be playing one of the videos of Baba Don, which has influenced you in one way or the other. Over to you, sir. Very well.
So dumelang bagolo, it's a very beautiful day today, and I'm saying beautiful because we are in Africa. We don't cry, we celebrate the life. And I can see Prapitika there. Thank you for such a wonderful tribute. When you played that flute, it went straight to the spirit. When we are in such situations, we want the spirit to really move. And go and do this and that. Of course, you did say earlier on, Prapitika, that when we pass on, or when we transition, we become ancestors, and and I want to say that so Baba Don for the light, re khona moroma re Matterra brasinga and okhono mathaka spita ke re body ha isale so ke spirit samata as on se light as focus next as Chandis Mareso, right? When we celebrate an ancestor like this, a great ancestor, you want to speak a language of incantations, basically, the word master rain, And this is how I knew, Bradon, when we met, it was about the word reigning. And now, but and there's always a question about how do we remember, or what do we remember when we remember such people? Jyoti Mistry says we remember differently. Becky Peterson says memories of the rulers and memories of the ruled are not the same. And this is how one wants to frame this my celebration, because I think I have a particular memory of Brazinga as a person who is basically his student. And what I do remember, of course, is that Brazinga refused to accept anti-people regimes wherever you find them. He refused to bleed internally. And this is where I want to take off, basically to say, I want to really begin where I think he ended. O popile motho wa leblanka. O popile motho wa leblanka. O popile motho wa leblanka bonka di mediphuka dilo tsa solanka. O popile motho wa leblanka. Ke ro popile motho wa leblanka bonka di mediphuka dilo tsa solanka. Dinako di apeka tsela e tla e swenka. E fathile bontsikane ya re raloka ha ile ya potlo e se kaka le botse di kamela bo Matterra le bo koka ba ka se litime go e senka ke re ha ile ya potlo e se kaka le botse di kamela bo Matterra le bo koka ba ka se litime go e senka tota re tlhoka go ikheneka bo papala gae go tswa tuka ba tsuba kwa Amerika e bo filwe ke maila kgaka maino a moroma gerika litlho le aperwe ke molaka ngwana mmuko le ka mabadi moeng ka stuka sa swastika a re tla letla merafe re keteka ba rothile makarateka ke re ba rothile makarateka ka mosorello ra ka se China ditonki di tla re toloka di a re keleka dipoko ka tsebe ya Rika ke di a re keleka dipoko ka tsebe ya Rika re kile ra di leleka ba kokotela disaka ra di seka ba reka le masika ke phatlalatsa zaka ya re tribeka ke re ke phatlalatsa zaka ya re tribeka le mela moroka le swaka jeme ya le dronka selo sa iphoshonka se boka dilo di nyoboka ke ro popile motho wa le planka o popile motho wa le planka bonka di mediphuka dilo tsa solanka o popile motho wa le planka o popile motho wa le planka bonka di mediphuka dilo tsa solanka ba kile ba se boloka ko polokwane se bodu se a poka se tsusitse kereke ebile sa ipoka tota re ba lemile sebaka dipitsa ba di hijacka di a itsholela di ganka go jewa ka dikgoka ga mmapereko ke teka mahala di a tlhame di matrase tsa phalafala ba parakata maetla ba tshameka ke re di a tlhame di matrase tsa phalafala ba parakata maetla ba tshameka go ronoka bolos mathe ka ba shaba ka go thweka ba fantisa flaka phasele ha ba tswaka e tswaka e plaka ya go ponoka ga ke sone snare sa wa tamaraka mo ngwaneng ha saka wa temeka dipanolotse di a ipitika ntša tsa stoko ba iteka le ba ba matshweka ke re ba iteka le ba ba matshweka o popile motho wa le planka o popile motho wa le planka bonka di mediphuka dilo tsa solanka la ikaletsa ka go polotika mafofora magakabe a haraka moruo wa Afrika. Yeah, I'm a student of Bradon, and the first lesson that I got from Brazinga was in 1999. The place was FUBA, was called then the Federated Union of Black Arts. Bradon was working in some capacity in the basement there. It was an arts gallery. And at the top there in the principal's office, there was Brasipo Sepamla. So my beginnings really was between these two gentlemen. And I'm really grateful to have been a part of that time, that tradition, you know, and to have met these two great gentlemen. But as you will know, Brasipo decided to check out early, so the relationship could not be extended. Brazinga only just checked out. So we had time to really know each other, to travel to places, and then so that I could listen, because I think every time being with Brazinga was an opportunity to listen. And for me, you know, there were many lessons about what is this art form that we call spoken word. And I remember distinctly in that building, him telling me, you know, words are musical instruments. You put one word next to the other, you have a sonic relationship. And so as creatives, we need to be aware of the musicality of the word. We need to be sharply aware of that, so that when we create, we understand that, you know, this language of incantation needs, you know, spirit. And with that kind of sharp awareness, as a writer, you know, you are able then to send your message further. So for me, this is, you know, the kind of spirit that I have come to observe over the years. I mean, Baba Don was a very dynamic character. He even taught me, you know, physical training exercises. I remember one day I was agitated wanting to leave because I had a game of soccer to play. And I had to tell him, Brazinga Matterra. And then he was excited. I thought he was going to be angry because I'm ending the poetry lesson early. So so I had to move. So Brazinga Matterra, no man, go. The following day I come back. Here's Brazinga. He's showing me, you know, physical exercises, and he's showing me the strangest exercises. I mean, I've never seen such. He says, no, when you travel on your own, you know, you can work without weights, and, you know, it's very, very powerful exercises. And man, Baba Don, what great JD exercises. And this is the first time that I learned Baba Don. So, well, man, as far as next, the exercise, and I'm moving with this thing because for me it was important. We even spoke about, you know, the connection between the physical power and the vocal power, and you know, these were the kind of conversations that I've had with Baba Don. And for me, there's so much to say. Just to say, if there was one piece by Baba Don, I hear people talking about poetry. I also love him as a playwright. Particularly, there's a piece that I learned from high school, even before I read the script. I'm now chasing Teddy to give me that script. He's been jiving me, but I think I'll get him somehow. So it's that script, apartheid cannot stand in the court of history. And man, you know, for me, that character who just, is there not knowing what was going on, drunk in this court, was, you know, something about the humor of Baba Don. And I'm just wondering if this kind of scripts are adaptable to this moment, because I'm wondering if these Tomamina types will be able to stand in the court of history. And so I'm really full whenever I speak about Baba Don. It will never end, really. I want to compare Baba Don in many ways to people like Malcolm X, a guy who, you know, gets into, who knows the language of the streets. And, you know, somehow, you know, because we are contained, and that these things that we need to do as, you know, young black men, people find themselves in prison, and and they both find Islam, and through Islam they find the word, and the word, you know, gives them this power, which Marimba Ani describes as the power of Nomo, which is the idea that both these gentlemen had this force with language that, you know, when they spoke, they raised your vibration. And this is the thing about Brazinga. For me, whenever he spoke, I could feel my vibrations rising. And I want to end with a particular piece that I had written specially to him. His spirit, I think, spoke to me this Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, I was a complete wreck. But on Wednesday, I think I recovered. And I managed to come up with something called Fembo for Zinga. Hare chenchama ware kenekana mekrenko otabe oleva. Federe panola di perre uoklapari di lata otabe oleva. Exe. Hare chenchama ware kenekana mekrenko otabe oleva. Federit panola di perre uoklapari di lata. Brazenga otabe oleva. Hare chenchamawa. Rekenekana mekrenko otabe oleva. Federe panola di perre uoklapari di lata. Brazenga otabe oleva. Feredi tupa direlela la rica rabela otabe oleva. Ilgien forstane rejana carona brazenga otabe oleva. Rejana bare kashkara kama chankura otabe oleva. Rechabana kama sedi. Rechabana kama sedi requisana di chefu otabe oleva. Elefa ya waya manganga aibraya otabe oleva. Nix machecha. Rewela di nwama di brazenga otabe oleva. Retaukana strong, reba wela basaheme, otabe oleva, elespracate repalama di pefo, repalama di pefo, refalla otabe oleva, maruatibu. Ribitana kamelodi otabe oleva, rifuduadilo, kuana di tubeja, otabe oleva, arechenchama. Harichenchamawa, rekenekana mekrenko, tabe oleva. Federe panola di bere, wokapa di rilata, tabe oleva. Harichenchamawa, rekenekana mekrenko, tabe oleva. Repanola di bere, wokapa di rilata, tabe oleva. Exebrazinga. Harichenchamawa, rekenekana mekrenko. Otabe oleva, fere uokla paridilata, brazinga otabe oleva, fere naha, iwalerona, fere naha iwalerona, fere naha iwalerona, erebatla matsoho, otabe oleva, marapurina me, tlala pekele fosholo, otabe oleva, retlagula tsela, magakabe thubega otabe oleva, rechanta, bomati gari ba riskimile moweng, otabe oleva, vere mathwasa a Pentagon, a re kwaile re kelemile, otabe oleva, re apatsa mero. Rimela tlowu tabe oleva, fere baritsa di askari, rini tatisa di kari, otabe oleva, baluti ba mampela, parlamenteng re ba rotela otabe oleva, re ba tshwara ka di washini tsa mahala, otabe oleva, bova tsa makolo. Rini patala tsa meno otabe oleva, fere re kharaya. Di flaga tsa mpopo, di fologa. O tabe oleva.
Thank you very much. That is an outstanding and a wonderful tribute that is coming from Africa Khafela there. And you can see also those that are watching with us, and you can see with the comments that in the words of Professor Pitika Ntuli, Uti, it is the forest and the mountain type of poetry. And we appreciate this so much. Umalusika Zulu, Uti, we give thanks for you, brother. People are appreciating the tribute that you are putting across for Ubrazinga as we are commemorating and remembering this great giant of our struggle and of our country in the face of and in the name of Brazinga. You could hear the fire there. You could see that Mafika Khafela has been infused with this wonderful spirit Baba Don. And we want to continue with that as we celebrate this wonderful. And I want you to see that very same spirit that is displayed by Khafela in Baba Don himself. Here is the video. And immediately after that, we go to another fiery poet, Ntsiki Mazwai. Let's go to this video.
This piece together. No poet can come close to me in this country. No poet. They can give them the honors in exile. Poet laureate so and so, so and so. But when it was dark, I was there. When it was dark for the black child and for people, I was there. Today, I am nothing in their eyes. Sacrifice should be number one, not the last. So this is the piece that I have put together for this African queen. The African queen, Azania, behold the African queen. Zondeni Veronica Sobukwe, the mother of Azania. We honor you, valiant monarch, you whose life was dedicated to the liberation of your people and your land. Mother, servant, friend of the African dream of liberation and humanity. You, caring, giving servant of God, this humble ululation of song and gratulation comes from the deep, deep heart of the Azanian nation.
There you could see and you could understand that that is the type of fire that was in Baba Don, and Khafela was showing us that that fire of Baba Don is still with us. And there are some few people who have shown their appreciation to that tribute. Ramarumo Chikosi says it was a powerful tribute. Jabsi Maseko says, Pepe Havs, Pepe, Utlabe Uliva, Brazinga, Utlabe Uliva, in the face of and in the name of Gideon Sipo Mantula. And we are going to go to our next guest and our next speaker that is going to be giving a tribute as well. She's a friend of Brazinga. She has been there along the times, and she's been very, very, very friendly with Brazinga. The floor is yours, my sister. Brazinga is watching you wherever he is.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. It's a great privilege to be here in typical Ntate Don style in my life. He has put me in the right places. He has put me amongst Abo Ntate Zexnta, Abo Khafela, Abo Ntate Pitikantuli, you know, people who are written in South African history. So I'm really, really honored and feeling very emotional about being here. And the fact that this old man has always been someone who brings me into the room. So the first time I met Ntate Don, the first encounter of Ntate Don was in high school, in matric. I went to a very, very, very white school, St. Andrews in Bedfordview. And back in those days, we really, really were like the 1 or 2 Black people in class. So in English, we were privileged enough to study Ntate Don's work. So in matric was the first time that I came into contact with Black consciousness and poetry that spoke to me. The first time in my schooling career that I could relate to the work that was on the desk. And then fast forward a few years, and the inauguration of Utatu Thabo Mbeki in 2005. We were invited as an exclusive small group of poets to perform, and Ntate Don was one of them. It was Ntate Don, it was Ntate Pitika, Tatu Tumagandlova, I think, and then it was Lebu Mashile, myself, and Mac Manaka. And we were privileged enough to have, I think, about a month of very close interaction and bonding and fighting. And Ntate Don was a great man, guys. He was an amazing man, but he was also a very petty old man. So the collision between my spirit and his gangster and bossy and control freak was a very interesting experience in that that thing we put together, the program we put together. And those fireworks went on to carry a very beautiful friendship. Wow, I don't know, me and Tatu Don found the link between the young and the old and how you use each other in the creative space to empower each other and to get each other gigs. So I would always be there getting funding, getting money, getting hookups to celebrate Badon so that I also get paid. And then he also knew that he's got to attach himself to this young spirit so that he's also relevant in the things that I'm doing, you know? So we enjoyed a very fruitful friendship. And he, as everybody says, very rich in words. You know, his skill with the pen is unmatched, and there will never come another one like that again. And I don't know, I'm excited almost because with his body of work, I mean, AMA 2000 are showing that they're a little bit more, they've got a little bit more zing than us. And I'm excited that they've got so much work to fall into and to have access to because of Ntate Don. And everybody also keeps mentioning how much he loved children. So I think obviously I was a product of that love. And I was very, very privileged, and I'm so happy. A few years ago, when I saw that he was getting sick, I did prepare myself for this day. I did know, I did see it coming. So I think I'm ready to engage him on a spiritual level. Even when he passed away, I did go to the funeral, and by some forces of I don't know what, but I ended up right next to his coffin when they were having the rites of passage. So I know that I have taken, even when I went, I was like, Nyolanda, ispatch sam kutatu Don. So I know that I've taken ispatch sam from Kutatu Don, and I'm excited because now I know that the ancestral forces that have got my back, it's about to get lit, and my enemies must be scared because I've got a gangster up in here. So, you know, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy for Ntate Don to have transcended and to be on the other side with us and fighting for us. The legacy of Boko will finally stand up. So, Mina, I don't come here, I mean, obviously I'm sad, but I don't come here with sadness and grief. I come here celebrating that, wow, okay, what a privilege to actually be brought into the room by this guy and like this huge, like, you know what I'm saying? Give Michael Jackson, wah, you know what I'm saying? So it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And it's a privilege to be even amongst these speakers. And I'm so thankful to be written in the pages of South African history because of this man. The one poem that he used to tell me that that he used to celebrate of mine is Ukawekazi. So I will do that piece for you. And thank you so much. Tatu Don, Thank you very much. He used to call me Ntigelelo because Ntatu Don Branzinga was a feminist. He loved women in more ways than one. And so we were always empowered as women. And yeah, I know that every woman who encountered Ntatu Don, our fire was instilled and reignited. And we must remember that. We must remember that. We must remember that Ntatu Don was a feminist. Amba phambili qhawekazi khanya ndlovukazi. Embrace femininity, celebrate fertility. This womb carries to infinity sons and daughters of this divinity. Amba phambili Africa, amba phambili. Ala lantombazana kuchabashona. Kudala ulindelwe kule ndawo esingayibiza emadlozini. That feeling in your pit, almost like you feel sick. That, Lozikazi, is the boiling of your talents which have lifted the iron lid which made you bid farewell to your wishing well of glowing aura once upon a time when all was dark and hope, a forgotten reality amongst life's leaves and thieves of different shades that paint the seasons when friends come and they go and you always end up alone. That, Lozikazi, I've forgotten my words, but thank you very, very much. I love you, and and let us celebrate you in the spirit form. You've done so much for us, and wow, I'm excited. I can feel that you're in the spirit world. Personally, I can feel it, and I'm excited for us. I'm excited for Azania. I'm excited for the youth. Thanks for having me.
We are experiencing some light challenges there. Thank you very much, Nsegi, for that. And it is wonderful. And some people are also appreciative of your tribute. Colleagues and friends, those that are watching with us, we are in a virtual memorial service of Baba Don Mattera, or Don Mattera. And here we've got just some slight challenges of the internet, because there are some things that are getting delayed, but let's just hope that it will bear with us as we are going through this process. We were supposed to be playing a video of the president of Azapu, but our internet on this side is not friendly as we would like it to be. But that was a beautiful tribute from Tsiki, and you could hear that Advocate Sipomantula was also saying something about Brajon, and he says that at some point they once invited Unsiki no Brajon at Vista University at Soweto campus, and at that time even Advocate Mantula says, as much as there was a rebuke on the side of Brajon, but there was still that love that was there to show to Rasta and say, hey Rasta, move us. So beautiful tribute there from you, Nseki. I'm going to ask that we go straight to Professor Zeksinda while we are trying to fix the problem of the internet for the video of our president of Azapo, because it is unresponsive, and now to ensure that we've got sufficient time and do things in time, let us rather go to the next speaker, and then we will fix the problem. We have another literary giant in the name of Brazeix. Brazeix, the floor is yours. Brazinga has transitioned. You take it, and you give us what we know you for.
Well, first of all, I must pass my condolences to the family, friends and family, but also to everyone who is here today, those who have expressed themselves and those who are yet to do so. And what is common with all of us, of course, is that we were all touched in one way or another by Baba Don Mattera. And therefore, it was important for all of us to be here and say something on that. In other words, I am saying that I'm grateful that the Sobukwe Trust invited me as well. Because indeed, I've had encounters with Baba Don over many, many years. I knew Baba Don from the 1960s, actually. That is, I knew of him. He didn't know me then. I was just a little boy. I was in my early teens at the time. I knew of him in the 60s, mostly as one of the gangsters there, rather than anything else, who was reputed as, one who could really, was fast with the Okapi. But then, at the same time, he became even much more known for bringing people together, bringing other gangs and gang members together to stop fighting, for instance, for territory and things like that. And for that, he didn't use any force. He didn't use any violence, although he was feared. But he used compassion. He didn't name it that at the time. But when you look back, you find that the compassion that he spoke about in later years was there already when he brought feuding people together and when he became a peacemaker. You see, so that's when I got to know of him, because amongst us youngsters, stories were told about Brazinga. And then, of course, some of us never thought that one day we would actually rub shoulders with him. That happened much, much later, in much later years, for me, in fact, to rub shoulders with him. I had already been captivated by his poetry when I began to rub shoulders with him. And what struck me about his poetry, even those days, was that, yes, he was a freedom poet. He wrote politics. He gave us insights about our situation, and he rallied us to fight against that situation. But he was also a romantic poet. And that taught me, a future writer, that you can write about love and the freedom struggle at the same time. The two are not mutually exclusive. When I got to know him, of course, it was when I was already recognized as a writer myself. And in many instances, I found myself in his company, perhaps one of these tours abroad, when writers are invited out there, mostly in Europe, but once in a while, some other African country, but in many instances, it would be Europe. In one of these occasions, we were with a writer from Nigeria called Ken Saro-Wiwa, a very tiny man, very short. Those who know me will tell you that I am short. He was even shorter than me, Ken, and also tiny. And he smoked a very big pipe. And his pipe smoking reminded me of our guys when we were in Porto. Sobukwe himself, was a pipe smoker those days. But there was one called Putlago Leballo, who was an acting president at the time after Sobukwe had been arrested, who was also a very heavy pipe smoker. But even when he was not smoking that pipe, it would be in his mouth all the time. So much that it became fashionable to have a pipe in your mouth amongst, the PAC people. The pipe became quite fashionable. So Ken Saro-Wiwa reminded me of those people, those leaders, many of whom were gone by that time when we met Ken Saro-Wiwa. He was already a famous writer, especially in Nigeria, Ken Saro-Wiwa, but a very well-mannered young man in as far as Baba Don was concerned. So he would always want to carry Baba Don's bags, you see. And Baba Don was very much impressed by that, that here was this famous writer, but because, he was respectful of his old age, he would always be carrying Baba Don's bags. Well, we came back home, and then Ken Saro-Wiwa was arrested because he was involved in that struggle of the Ogoni people, first against multinational corporations such as Shell, which had polluted his people, because in Ogoni land they were extracting oil, which was then used in other regions by other people, but the Ogoni people remained very, very poor. When Saro-Wiwa told us about this, it touched us very much. I remember that Brazinga was very much touched because at that time already he was known and identified himself as somebody whose ideology, even more than everything else, was compassion, or whose religion. Yes, as a religion, he was a Muslim. Politically, he was a Pan-Africanist, and not just a Pan-Africanist, but a Pan-Africanist of the PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. But even more than that, he saw his politics as compassion. He saw his religion as compassion. That is why then he was involved in the issue that was brought to us by Ken Saro-Wiwa. So whilst we were here, then we heard that Ken Saro-Wiwa was arrested by the Sani Abacha government in Nigeria and was sentenced to death. It was a very fast makeshift trial, and he was sentenced to death. That's when then I even got much closer to Brazinga because we were actively involved in trying to save the life of Ken Saro-Wiwa. And that also showed how much of a Pan-Africanist Zinga was. It was not just the fact that, there's a Nigerian guy out there, these are Nigerian issues and so on. We felt touched, he felt touched personally. We tried to rally around some of our politicians here, some of the writers, but even much more importantly, some of the politicians in South Africa. Remember, this was the era of euphoria, the euphoria of the so-called New South Africa. Mandela was only 1.5 years old in as far as his presidency was concerned. And we therefore lobbied Nelson Mandela, trying to appeal to him to appeal to Abacha and to rally other African leaders to stop the execution of this innocent man, who was sentenced to death only because he was fighting against the oppression and the murder, in fact, of his Ogoni people. Mandela promised us that, well, he will, in fact, approach Abacha, through their diplomatic channels and so on, to see if this would not be stopped, this execution. But we were quite surprised when the following week we saw in the papers where he was praising Sani Abacha and saying, well, Sani Abacha is a great statesman and so on, which was rather disappointing to us because he was a great statesman who was about to execute our friend. Indeed, well, but at the same time, we knew that perhaps that's part of what diplomacy is all about. Maybe that's his way of trying, to appeal to this guy so that he can have a heart, so even Mandela has praised me, let me have a heart and not kill this guy. But he did kill him. He did murder our friend Ken Saro-Wiwa. And that indeed became something very painful to Brazinga, something that he never forgot, because every time we met, even now, in many years later, for instance, I remember a meeting in Durban at the time of the writer about 3 years ago, he would still talk about Saro-Wiwa, say, hey man, do you remember our Nigerian friend, Ken Saro-Wiwa? And you would see, the sadness in him at the murder of Ken Saro-Wiwa. Well, I'm just telling this story to show that his Pan-Africanism was not just, theory. It was not just an ideology that is divorced from practice. It was tied in with who he was, a man of compassion, a Pan-Africanist who was also a great man of compassion, a great poem. You feel that compassion in his poetry. You feel the love in his poetry. And once more, I would very much like to pass my condolences to all of you, including his family. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Prof. There's a question, by the way, that was coming through, and somebody was asking what was in the pipe that was in your mouth.
In whose pipe? In Sobukwe's pipe or Ken Saro-Wiwa's pipe? Oliballo's pipe, eh?
Yes, maybe it would be helpful to give us what was in there in that pipe. At least we go home knowing what was in the pipe.
It was not what you think. It was just pure aromatic tobacco.
Thank you very much for that, and I hope those that were asking that question have been answered. Thanks, Brazil, for that wonderful contribution and that wonderful tribute for our Tayoa in the Azanian poetry. We appreciate it so very much. We love what you have just given to us about Bradon. And viewers, you can hear that Bradon was many things, but what was in the center of his life was his love for humanity. And somebody was saying in the comments, it was humanity was his highest religion. And to show this, that has been the case, we've got the people from the family to also speak to us about their father, their brother, their grandfather, and and their blood relative, because we have seen that Baba Don was a family man, but also was a peacemaker and a Pan-Africanist and a member, long-standing member of the PAC. So, Dr. Teddy and Dade Dumela, welcome to this program and this wonderful memorial service. The floor is yours. We are having viewers across the globe watching with us on YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms. So the floor is yours. The Sobukwe Trust decided to have this wonderful discussion and this memorial service today. So we give it to you, and you say a few words that you would like to say to everybody who is watching.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Thandulethu. Thank you, Prazex and speakers who went before me. I'm always wary about speaking after very great people, you know. Prazex Mda is one of my heroes, and I'm a great admirer of his work. So I cannot promise by any remote chance to be as eloquent, but I will make an attempt to honor my father, our father, Comrade Don, to most of you. And it's apt that the Sobukwe Trust would honor him, because Sobukwe himself was a great humanitarian. I remember as far as about 4 to 5 years old, I could read and write already. And my father was working at the Star newspaper, and I used to sometimes sit on his lap, you know, and ask him, not at the Star, sorry, he was writing poetry. And I remember asking him, we were reading a newspaper article, and everywhere in this newspaper article, it said sources said and sources claim. And, you know, as journalists would, and I asked him if these two guys' sources were related, you know, because they seem to appear everywhere, and what it meant. So there's these fond memories of words in Don Mattera's life that illuminated our paths, my path as a creative person. I'm a filmmaker by my work, and also more recently as an academic. And I think that the journey that Don Mattera came to present to us as a family and as children, his children, was that he was extremely protective over us. We come from about 4 different mothers, but if you were to see us together, you would swear that we are all from the same mother, and that's how we see ourselves, you know. So throughout this journey of being one of Don's many children, I adopted a sense of beauty and appreciation for art, for the use of words to express what sometimes was unreachable. And I chose to do that through pictures. And I must tell you that I thought that I knew about cinema until Don Mattera came to speak about movies. He spoke about his time in Sophiatown as an usher in the cinema, and how he would they would emulate the great stars in the movies. Humphrey Bogart, you know, one of the most iconic statements that Sophiatown's people lived by, especially the gangsters and the socialites, you know, is to live fast, die young, and have a beautiful corpse. Well, Don did more than that. I think he lived to go past the material existence of life and surpassed the very shallowness and the superficial kind of existence of materialism to become close to what one could call a complete human being. His humanity shone through his deeds. It shone through the words that he spoke, and it shone through the thoughts from which they were born. Everywhere where we went as children, it would take us about 30 to 40 minutes to walk 2 blocks across from the bus stop in Sour Street, where the Star office was, to walk down Bree Street to where the cinema was, the Majestic Cinema. Daar was altyd Brazinga Who's It, Don, die Zinga Special, our Grovas Lighty. So I guess what I'm trying to say in so many words is that there was nothing in particular that you could identify about what Don Mattera is, what Don Mattera was. He was, at any point, he carried a personality that embraced so much more than what one could identify in one particular category. I think I need to tell you that one of the things that we experienced in our home was how this applicator, through the disguise of running a soccer team, would hide arms and AK-47s in football bags. And I remember my mom once cooking and the police, the security branch coming into our home. In fact, they broke down the door, really. And how our mother put, it must have been a part or a portion of an arm, a revolver or something, into a pot that was cooking. It was like making movies. And how it was, they were wrapped up or hidden in soccer balls that were being transferred into certain places. None of us at the time knew why one soccer ball was heavier than the other. And then I later found out, as I spoke to him, what was actually going on, that he was a supplier of arms for the cadres of Poto in the township. I'm giving you sketches, I'm giving you a view, a panoramic view of the man that you're celebrating, that we are celebrating today. But the memory that stays with me most of all, and the one that I am sad about, is that this great tree has fallen. Don represents that for me, a great oak. And oak trees generally live 200 years or so long, and then they collapse and fall to the floor. But over the hundreds of years, they've shed many thousands of seeds to produce other oak trees. And so I see that everywhere I go. But I never really understood until his death the scope, the breadth, the depth of this man. And I thank you all for taking the time to remember him while he was alive and to remember him after he has died. From all of us in the family, we are eternally grateful for what you have done to relish and celebrate Don Mattera's memory, to celebrate his work, but more to celebrate the essence of the man that he is and that he was. I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the family, and we appreciate that. And I'm showing you Professor Zide, because you might be wanting to say some few words to Ndade Teddy, because he was very clear about and the appreciation that the Sobukwe Trust has done. So if there are any words that you would like to, specifically that you want to say to Ndade Teddy, I would give it to you.
Okay, yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Tando. To you, Teddy, and family, we indeed, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe Trust, want to extend our sincere condolences to you, the family, and the grandchildren and everybody else. But most importantly, we would want to say we mourn with you, but at the same time, in an African sense, a giant like Don Mattera needs not to be mourned. Actually, his life needs to be celebrated. And you have been so fortunate to have a father like him, but equally so, I think we in the PAC family are also very proud to have had somebody who, in the midst of the apartheid darkness, was able to carry the torch of light of the Pan-Africanists, but above all, to carry the torch of light and hope for everybody out there who at the time was not able to voice his or her concerns about what was happening in the country. And he continued to be that torch of light and wisdom, even in the present day democracy. So please do accept our condolences. Thank you, Tando.
I do, thank you.
Back to you, Tando.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Prof, and we appreciate it. And Dada Teddy as well. We also convey our condolences and thank you very much. We are going to move next to our next speaker, and our speaker would be a Pan-Africanist and a staunch member of the PAC, and she will be granting a keynote address. But before that, there was a poem that was demanded by Baba Don from Professor Pitika Nduli, and he has to give that because if he doesn't do it, probably Baba Don can come back for him and say, "Hey, who's that Jay?" So before we give it to Memuhau, over to you, Professor Pitika Nduli. Take it, Maverick.
Thank you. Teddy and the family, you know how I feel. Baba Don loved this poem. Baba Don was a linguist and a very, very good man. And I also would like to thank Teddy, who always had it with him, kept me posted on everything, what happened to Baba Don. If he coughs, and he would do that. Such devotion, by a son, you know that he is not God. He lives in his children. He lives in you, Teddy. Now the poem he liked because it involves languages. I am an African caressed by African winds, trade and anti-trade washed by her many rivers, pure and impure, endurance tested by the rugged edges of Mount Kilimanjaro and Ukashamba. Within the retina of my eyes, in the midst of sandstorms, I carry a clear vision of Africa's rebirth. I swear by every grain of sand in the Sahel and in the Kalahari. I tasted the fragrance of dawn in Nyanga, Laga, Kukuletu, in Soweto, and in Shav within my mother's womb. I was a neighbor to a bullet, and today I taste the fruits of doubtful freedom in our land. Am I not the son of great African women who make it the lady of Kenya, who walked 200 miles in defiance of British imperialism? Am I not Queen Kwamile, Wasiswazini? Yes, I am the son of the warrior queens of Africa, of Nzinga Dongo, of Angola, of Umantantise, Wabatlokwa, of Usarunia, of the Anzas. Yes, I am the child of my mother. I've suckled the languages of my people from my mother's sweating breast. You want to know who I am? Kinas la kisama pila kila ka khobu kila ka mtipa. Kina listibela sa ke namela ka ntahoka pila kisama buchuchuchu. Kare ka sipila ka kopana ni mshiba ka ni mshiba ni tloga motsile stibela setla. Ari mpempe wala pisa. Mona hona ke tsa hai. Jege debele ke khona ke nraregile. ngingumhlalo wanamba lundulu zibudelane la kucaba cobo wemamba ngihlaba nomkhwekazi ihlolo isikhabinilize ngirarekile ngirare mraro wararo faro nomhlanje faro usarareke njalo nina bekunene bemaswati enahlula bobo enahlula hlehla bobo hlehletela usobhuzu loba abanzi imitile emncane wayisibekela bathi awuhlamba uyashashabula wena washiya tingwe latemkhonvo tasala bamba amagwebu utwayekela wena waqhawula King George Phesheya wathi oh yes mbabeli tandla netinya umntwana ongathela amalibe nabathakathi omkhize nomabhoko umntwana onatsamanda secollege ndithelala njalo ke mbabushe ndune enkulu yakulo nxusha ababhongo wafezulu ukuthi ubugqibile ubuyinja ngokuzana kokuvela nangokuphathwa awonanga wolakele nezincwadi zifundisiwe akonanga ukamla ukwenza lo mzekelo yini ngize nje inja. I am a child of Jibanyika, the father of Velelambe, Pikoto, Uyando. I carry the blood of Rabura. I carry the blood of Delenguta, of Umpofu. Yes, I am the child who buried his umbilical cord in Zata and breathed the fumes of Funduzi. I am Netitenze, the honor of Titenze. I am Netiombo, the honor of the drumstick. Nda Yanduna. Jabum Zuluge. Ituvesu ronya dum kabatelo wakabateli kundla kabulawayo odonseke izitabe ezimakhelekethe uvesi wakasimba kanje umbomboso omnyama uveva nolukaphuka nomageba uveva nobalathi ibhathe ngabe ngalithitha lahakabala lujengo lukaphuka sebulawini lujengo lukavuka bangoma wawela imboza kumntakajama wawela imboza bakwasiziziba ebezigeza kudukuza nenkisimani beyigeza bebheki ithi kwaZulu nanamhlanje abanini beboza babamangele umangelo maqonda ngwakashiya abanye kwamangalo bangeza kakhali isizibe sizozobela sibiza umtethu yageza wazi bashona ngesicoko ngoba ucoko ngibonile obephume osodlabela uqambu lankobazi lahlekile yazothi umdlebe kasoshangana inkone yankona kwaphuka isihlalo ugwembesha umashikizela umashipi yakhe Brazinga. I am eating a soul. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much, Mafriga. Pitigantuli siabulela kakhulu, son of the soil. And you can see that sometimes you get so jealous when you see that our Tatu Untuli are able to move in between the indigenous African languages in between with ease and with no troubles. And I think that is a great thing. We as a younger generation to them and young children and their grandchildren, I think we can learn one thing or two from them and their ability to do that. And on the comment section, there's a lot of beautiful messages that are coming through, not only to the families of the Matterras, but also to the speakers that are conveying beautiful tributes here. And so as we go along, we continue to play those. One of those messages was coming from Unsako Mlambo, from the Mlambo family. It reads, "Rest in peace, Baba Don Mattera. From today onwards, you are on this. You are the second lion of Azania after Uncle Zephania Likuame Mutupe. You live on in our hearts, son of the soil." It comes from the Johnson Mlambo family, but also the Donatello Francesco Matterra family, one of the children of the family. They say to Ntate Teddy, beautiful, thank you, and thank you to the Robert Mangaliso Foundation for making sure that this process goes with the ease. And as of this moment now, as I had said earlier, that we are going to be having our keynote address from our Simme Muhau Peku, and she is befitting, and she is fitting, as you have heard through Unonsigelelo Mazwai, when she said Baba Don ebe feminist and Baba Don ebe womanist, and Baba Don was she embodied and he embodied all those dynamics. So our keynote speaker is Memuhau Peku. Memuhau Peku the floor is yours. You can give a tribute to Bra Don, even though we were picking up that you were struggling with your internet, but now we hope there won't be any further troubles. Let's hope for the best.
Sons and daughters of Africa, we come to this end of life ceremony and memorial to celebrate and honor Baba Don Mattera. I congratulate the previous speakers and amazing tributes before me. May the family be comforted. As Baba Don rises in glory and power, there must be a very interesting conversation with the Almighty God. Baba Don had wished to have a man-to-man meeting with God, whose tears he promised to wipe. And in his poem, Great God, I sometimes wonder how strong you are. What awful cosmic tension throbs inside your restless brain? Why, in the scheme of conception, did you include pain? If we could meet on even terms, man to man, you stripped of power, I of fear, I'd lift my shirt and show you scars, wide as the moon, black as the stars. If only we could meet in the ghetto of the street, you stripped off the power of death, I of fear. I'd go from you and you would cry to have me back. Perhaps I shall return to wipe your tears, for we could not have a God that cries. As we remember Baba Don today, he must be smiling at the opportunity to recite new poems to the man he once wanted to meet on the ghetto and streets of this magnificent country, Azania. How chuffed he must be to finally return to wipe the tears of a God who should never cry. This great son of Azania, a Pan-Africanist and espouser of Black consciousness, stood in the breach against dispossession and colonialism. It was his older brother, Sonny Boy, who in 1958 felt the stirrings of a new movement preparing to break away from the ANC, who said to him, quote, "We are going to launch the PAC, and you with your strong views of Africa, your strong reading of African literature, you are a must for us." Baba Don said, "I'll think about it," because his brother and him felt that the ANC was weak, and it was. Baba Don Mattera paid allegiance to the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. In 1959, on the 6th of April, he was there, and whenever I met him, he would always wonder what could have happened if PAC had not been banned. His brother said, "You know, we are about to embark on a massive program. You are living in Western Native Township, which is opposite Sophia Town. Things will happen one day. You will see." Baba Don recalls that nobody told us what it was that would happen. And in no time, Sharpeville came. However, it just didn't come. It stayed with me in my consciousness. It stayed in my psyche. His poem on Sharpeville, "Day of thunder, day of blood. In the dusty streets of Sharpeville, the thunder roared from the Saracen skies. The blood flowed from black folks' eyes when they met the hail of dum-dum. The crying, the calling, the running, the falling, the dying of men, women, and children, and the cold, stern faces of them, who held the thunder and spat the hail, while my people sang, 'Return, Africa. Oh, Africa, return. Maibuye I Africa.' bitter was that day in the dusty streets of Sharpeville. The Pan-Africanist Congress was formed. Bra Don had great hopes. Later, PAC was banned and its members placed under house arrest. In hardly 3 months, he remembers, it managed to raise a membership of 60,000 members. Young people wanted to join the movement of anger and blood and death. In 1964, he became an underground operative of the Azanian People's Liberation Army. It is through these actions that we are forced to reflect on ourselves and ask, how do we radicalize the responsibility of totally liberating the Azanian people? When women experience rape and are violated on our streets and homes, how do we radicalize the responsibility of liberation? When 75% of young women and men reach the age of 30 without ever working and contributing their brilliance to our society, how do we radicalize the responsibility to become the dissidents of a violent economic model that disposes the youth and does not give a damn about 13-year-olds dying in taverns, 8-year-olds who are heads of their household? Will we be silent and inactive when an entire generation is trafficked and we only read stories of the disappeared? In his seminal work, Memory is a Weapon, he challenged the norms, definitions, silences, poverty, privilege, suffering, and the dominant discourse that colonized the mind, that made men and women impotent in fighting economic and political structures that oppress the African people even today. He often questioned what stole our imagination and our inability to see ourselves as Azanians who can and will conquer and reclaim our place in history. Bra Don, through his writings, interactions, and his landmark collection of poems, passionately and fervently invoked us to conduct an epistemic disobedience. In his beautiful grandiloquence, he disclosed to us his dream of a radically different country and world. He would often use his sharp tongue and pen to force us to confront the master narratives. He challenged us not to be swayed by those who want to sanitize and revise the cruelty of the houses of apartheid and colonialism. He cautioned us against reasoning away the history of injustice. He forced us to fight the houses of patriarchy, and our uncritical acceptance and apologetics for the rapacious elite power enclave that celebrates our continued dispossession of land, of opportunity, and life itself today. He decried our slumber and casual attitude towards the dismantling of everything that the freedom fighters like him fought for. Have we subjugated and silenced ourselves? Where is our fire? Where is our outrage? Where is our collaboration of dissent? Even the most bilious cynic has to pause and listen to the words of Bra Don, his words and his lightning. Fundamentally, we need a dialogue of difference, a dialogue left to us by Bra Don, where we continue logic, where we combine logic with lyric to build a theater of social and political reconstruction. Bra Don, etched in the finest history books of this country, This son of the soil will be remembered for standing in the breach against tyranny of our times. Over 140,000 Black men sit in South Africa's prisons today. He stood up, meticulously dressed, shoes shined. He was a calling card to Azanian men, sending love notes to them in the face of injustice, of oppression, and being told verbally and non-verbally that they are not good enough. He encouraged them to love their families, use their resilience, their creativity, and be defenders of our communities, to be present for their children. A gracious, decent, humble freedom fighter, a friend, a role model to many of us, to the journalists, to the youth, to the communities that he served. A son of the soil who prophetically saw the future and sounded the alarm for us to take action. Baba Don, an eloquent, one of the finest Pan-Africanists who were influenced by Sobukwe and the giants of Pan-Africanism like W.E.B. Du Bois, had multiple ethnicities embedded in him. The Khoisans, the Xhosas, the Sicilian Italian. But intuitively, this gave him a profound sense of Boto. He was generous linguistically, always looking to connect with love for people. He showed a boundless kindness and consideration of others. He read about Africa profusely and deeply understood the roots of racism, colonialism, inequality, landlessness. He understood African humiliation from his own experience of forced removals in Sophia Town. His experience as a gangster would prepare him to never step aside in confronting the police of his day. He managed to knife a few. He challenged the norms, the definitions, the silences, the poverty, the privilege, the suffering, and the dominant discourse that the colonized minds of our people live in. He called us out on our self-imposed impotence in fighting economic and political structures. He transcended religion, as other speakers had said, and always staked his claim of compassion and empathy being his religion. He blessed Jesus, he blessed Muhammad. In this, he disliked the narrow-mindedness where various religions did not see God in each other. He was the poet of compassion. His life reminds us of how callous we have become, how unmoved we often are by suffering and the pain of millions living on the margins of our society. We have become orators who hate the poor, how they have become just words in speeches, how disrespectful we are to their pleas for help. We are cold, we are uncomfortable around them, we are unyielding, shielding our eyes away from their desperate eyes. Don Mattera said, "Empathy is your pain in my heart. Compassion is your caring for the pain in my heart. When you are moved, you are taken from one disposition to another. It is a movement of your heart, your mind, your psyche." Baba Don possessed the classic values of a true Pan-Africanist. He represented the virtues of what is best about an Azanian, an unpredictable nonconformist with a disdain for self-pity. He illuminates what is best about us. In his poet tribute to Sobukwe, and it is his tribute to him today, on his death, it was our suffering and our tears that nourished and kept him alive. Their law that killed him, let no dirges be sung, no shrines be raised to burden his memory. Sages such as he need no tombstones to speak their fame. Lay him down on a high mountain that he may look on the land he loved, the nation for which he died. Men feared the fire of his soul. May Baba Don rest in peace, and we celebrate him today as he rises in power and glory. Izwe lethu.
Yeah, Africa. Thank you very much, Ausmahau, for that reverting tribute. And I'm sure by now that you, whoever that is watching and is listening, is able to connect the dots of that's the popular discourse in South Africa, has connected the dots of who Baba Don was. Because over the past week, there has been this dethroning of Baba Don from his Pan-Africanist orientation, especially in the popular media. So thank you very much for that wonderful, wonderful contribution. And we are seeing all your messages that are coming through, and people are saying these contributions and these tributes that have been made here have been of great input and have been of great help in one way and another. So thank you, Ausi Muhau, for that submission. And before, I want to apologize, colleagues and friends, and those that are watching, including the Matterra family. We had a video of the president of Azapo, Comrade Nelvis Kakema. The video is, we are struggling to load the video because the internet keeps on kicking it out, and now we are struggling to play that. So we have done our best to make sure that it is there, but unfortunately we can't play it anymore. We've tried, and there's no sabotage. There is no there are no underlying ideas that have caused that. So we want to inform everybody that there was a video that we had promised to play, but unfortunately we could not play it. As we are about to conclude, we are going to ask Afrika Khafela to do one final fiery submission that is going to help us to go down this mountain of Baba Don Mattera. We are going down the mountain, Afrika Khafela, and we are giving you the platform before we do the final words of closing. Over to you. Let's light this mountain as we go down.
Ke a leboga moAfrika, ke leboge me Mohau Pheko o re file pheko when you say izwe lethu. You know wa re gopotsa ke yone pheko ya rona eo, ke a leboga. Ha re bua ka yona pheko, re bua ka yona maybe yona pipe ele ne Brazil sa bua ka yona ele. Brazil, I hope one day when we have an encounter, I'll be able to investigate and get more information about the pipe, because I'm interested in the joys of pipe smoking myself. So yeah, the pipe connects us to the land, if you know what I mean. So izwe lethu, naga ke ya rona. Naga ke ya rona, ntho tsa ga nna le wena re goga mogaga re a tlhanoga re re ai bo we fa naga naga ke a rona ntho tsa ga nna le wena re goga mogaga re a tlhanoga re re a bowe naga ke a rona ntho tsa ga nna le wena re goga mogaga re a tlhanoga re re a bowe naga e chaile ya go kgarakgatsega bana ba mmuri a tlhanoga ga se go roga tsela go retologa ga se go roga tsela go retologa re gwanta re gata mmogo re kgoga dikgato re tsapoga re gwanta re le botsoga tsoga e batla masojanaga tsoga e batla masojanaga re ganne phakela go phimoga re ganne phakela go phimoga ra sutla masigo le dikgaga re shebelana go fatloga re tlhomolana divaga bikintsho tsa ga nna le wena re a tlhanoga phefo difoka re menoga ke re phefo difoka re menoga le naga re belega re tshegetsa re katoga re sabolo go thatloga re fologa ra goroga tsatsi le ra goga naga ke a rona ntho tsa ga nna le wena re goga mogaga re a tlhanoga re re a bowe naga ke a rona ntho tsa ga nna le wena re goga mogaga re a tlhanoga re re a bowe naga ke re ra goroga tsatsi le ra goga maru a poga ya ikalanaga lerumo la romega ba boa ba kgokologa bokgodumodumo ba thubega dimpa ba thobega diphuka mekrenko ya robega megatla ya kgaoga aga ba tšatšaraga ba jagantwa diaga di bataga gedagte tsa buremaga maragaraga di botola mafiega bo freedom tomorrow lo a diega bo sarafina ba staraga ke re a bowe naga
When people start to speak, when people start to say, it must make the wrong ones shiver that this was not what we fought for. This is not what we want. We must say to the world, Nelson Mandela smacked history in the face, whack. Because history is about vengeance. It's about an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And yet those who kept us in bondage were allowed to continue their lives. Where else in the world does it happen but in Africa? So it is important for us to say to each other, the sense of tribalism is growing in our country, whether you like it or not. Mandela saved the whites. Who's going to save the blacks?
Must we attend funerals all the time? I want to go to God and say, hey, meneer your nonsense kom. Das mogos waar jy kan vat. Das baie lanis waar jy kan ga. It is not easy. You don't know. I saved this young man's life twice. Twice. The knives were on his throat. And I said, hey, hi Bamba, hi Luma. Hi Bamba, hi Luma. And Winnie Khotsetsile also. In my dark days of the dawn, Nagishapanyanyela.
We've been having a wonderful, wonderful program and a wonderful memorial service. And with those final words, I wanted to show you the fire in Dr. Don Mattera. And we want to thank everybody who has made the time to be amongst us this afternoon. the Sobukwe Trust, the guests that have made this possible, and everybody else who is also watching with us here, and everybody who has made sure that we are all here and we are celebrating this wonderful life of Bradon. And at this moment, I want to take these wheels that I was driving and return them back to my superiors and my principals.
Is it me? But I can't hear you.
I'm taking them back to my principals and my superiors to make sure that they are doing the final
Not
the
sure
final
if it's my
closure.
side, but I can't hear you, Tandos.
It's your side. It's your side, Tando. And I'm sure that everybody else can hear us. Can we all? Can you hear me, Professor Zidi?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, yes. So I'm taking this over to you, Prof. Zita, as the chairperson of the trust, and I want to thank everybody who was and who has participated in this memorial service. Those that are watching on Facebook, those that are watching on Twitter, on YouTube, on the Politik, across the globe, across the continent, in Azania, everybody. You have been wonderful. I'm handing it over back to you, Prof. And thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to be the driver and the guide of this auspicious memorial service of Bradon.
Okay. Africa, Tando, thank you very much for being such a wonderful driver of this event, which is a very important event in our history as the Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe Trust. And we, on behalf of the trust, we want to thank Tando Spuya in particular, who is our project manager, for the wisdom and the strength that he put behind this project, and as well as in organizing the speakers, for whom we owe a great appreciation for the preparation and everything else that was done in order to portray the Bradon Brazinga, whom we know, a very eloquent orator, a very excellent speaker, and but at the same time a very jocular fellow, as Prof. Pitika also indicated, and Khalifa. He was one man who was so gifted, both in terms of the additional official language and the other African languages which we have in South Africa, and that language is Tsotsital. And I always say that one who does not understand Tsotsital does not know what he or she misses. And so he would always say, only you in life can make a difference. Now, I want to challenge everybody who has attended this memorial service to go out there, preach the gospel of the PAC, and say, only us as true people of Azania, as true Azanians, can make the difference. Allow me, therefore, to quote Leo Buscalia, who would always end off his motivational speeches by saying, only you can make a difference. And I seem to hear Bradon to be challenging us today, saying, only us can make the difference. And so he would say, you alone can bring magic and humor and joy to the people you encounter. Anything you dream, by the very nature that you dream it, makes it possible. The purpose of life is to help others. And if you can't help them, would you at least not hurt them? You can make things happen that you never thought you could. The greatest risk in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing, does nothing, has nothing, and is nothing. And to be is to do, and to do is to do now, because tomorrow might not be there. You have everything you need to be so much. Don't settle for less. The time for action is now, and only us, you and I, as Azanians, can make the difference. Colleagues, thank you ever so much. And today I want to extend a special word of indebtedness to Brazix. And I know that he probably does not know that him and I are related. My grandmother, comes from the Mda. So I am happy that finally I'm able to meet my cousin brother. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. My boo, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Izwe lethu.